Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Honest Football Talk, where I, Thomas Llewellyn, give you guys my honest take on everything going on in the NFL world today. And my goodness, guys, week 3 of the NFL was absolutely crazy, guys. I couldn't believe some of the results that we got this past week. There was a lot of upsets to get into, and you know what? Let's just jump right into the breakdown of last week and get into some of these matchups and see what happened last week. It was actually really, really crazy. I was not expecting some of these results, and I'm really excited to get into it. So the first matchup that I want to get into from last week is the Las Vegas Raiders, who were the home team, taking on the Carolina Panthers. And my goodness, guys, would have never have guessed the result of this game. The winner of this game was the Carolina Panthers with 36 points to the Las Vegas Raiders 22 points. What on earth happened? Who would have guessed this? I mean, personally, I thought the Raiders were just going to come out and handle the Panthers all day, but that did not happen whatsoever. It happened to be the exact opposite. Panthers, as you guys know, the Panthers have been going through a lot of turmoil these first couple weeks of the NFL. There was a lot of promise for their young quarterback, Bryce Young, who they had just taken just a few years ago as the first overall pick. This has not been too many years for him into the NFL here, and he's been struggling immensely with all these different changes and coaching. A lot of different players coming in and out of the organization as well. There's been a lot of turnover in that organization, so it's been really, really hard for Bryce Young to really find any sort of consistency within his play. And there was a lot of hope going into this year that he might take a step forward, even though they had gotten rid of a lot of their big pieces like DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. He now has Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, and Chuba Hubbard, which are still pretty decent pieces, but they're nothing compared to what they had with DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. So goes to show that the Panthers have been hurting for a while, and it was looking really rough to start the year. Of course, the Panthers had looked atrocious the first 2 games and had no hope going into Las Vegas. This was an away game. Let me remind you that they were going to go into Las Vegas and pretty much stomp their opponent. I had no hope of that honestly happening, but the Panthers did end up making a quarterback change this past week. They decided to take out Bryce Young, let him sit back and watch a veteran play and see how much he can possibly improve after watching a veteran take his spot. And for the Panthers overall, it seems to work wonders because replacing Bryce Young with Andy Dalton seems to have been the answer. The Red Rocket just went off this past week. The dude threw for over 300 yards. Let me check here. Yeah, 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. Sorry about that. The text was a little small, but yeah, pretty crazy to see that the Red Rocket can still, deliver in the NFL. The dude was a beast when he played for the Cincinnati Bengals. It kind of sucked the way that things happened with the Bengals and how he kind of, left the organization. But, it's been quite the journey for Andy Dalton, and I'm happy to see that he's getting some success here in Carolina. Pretty crazy how the dominoes have fallen for him, but really happy to see he's got some success here. It honestly makes zero sense how this is all working out. Never would have expected Andy Dalton to go in here after not playing for so long and lighten up the Raiders defense. It was really cool to see, and I'm really happy for Andy Dalton to see that he's getting another chance and can do something here. When looking at all this, I think that this actually looks really, really terrible for Bryce Young. It goes to show that the main problem for the Carolina Panthers was just straight up quarterback. It seems that as soon as they made that one change, it was literally one change that they had to make at the quarterback position, and now the ball's getting out a heck of a lot more accurately to these wide receivers, and a lot of the plays that they were calling that weren't working under Bryce Young are working a heck of a lot better under Andy Dalton, mostly just because of the accuracy behind it. Andy Dalton is just a much more accurate quarterback, and that might attest to Bryce Young's size. A lot of people complain about how Bryce Young is a very small quarterback, so that might have a lot to do with it, with his height, but overall, we can see, especially after this past week, that, a lot of the problems were laying on Bryce Young's shoulders. Hopefully, the Panthers say that they want to have Bryce Young come back and start again sometime this year. I don't know how that's going to be possible, the way Andy Dalton's playing, especially if Andy Dalton can lead this team to the playoffs. That would be amazing, but But yeah, going from there, really excited to see how the Panthers continue to play on throughout this season. Excited to see what Andy Dalton can do. When we look here at Bryce Young, I don't know if he's going to have another opportunity again in Carolina. I think he's going to have to leave Carolina to get another opportunity as a starting quarterback in the NFL. We'll see how that works out. If Carolina's willing to trade him, it's all on David Tepper's shoulders, whether he wants to move on from Bryce Young or if he still has faith in him. But yeah, doesn't look too good for Bryce Young for sure after the performance that Andy Dalton put up. So we'll see what time says with that. Maybe it was a fluke against the Raiders. Maybe it was just everything coming together at the right time. It is only one game. There's a lot more time to be, there's a lot more football to be played. So we'll find our answer for sure if it was really Bryce Young being the main problem for the Carolina Panthers or not. But going from there, we'll get on to our next crazy matchup that I've also found to be, really, really wild how this resulted. I thought this was going to be a really, really good game, really, really tight. Both teams seemed to have been playing well the first 2 weeks, but getting into this matchup, really surprised with the outcome. So this is the Minnesota Vikings, who are the home team, taking on the Houston Texans. And let me give you this final results here. Going to be a little surprised. The Minnesota Vikings came out with an overwhelming win against the Houston Texans. That's right, they destroyed them. The Minnesota Vikings have won 34-7 against the Houston Texans. Mind-blowing, let me tell you. I cannot believe just how much the Vikings have improved this offseason, especially when they just went into the draft with their first-round pick. They took a quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, who got hurt this offseason and is now out the whole entire season, and they have to go on their backup that they signed this offseason, Sam Darnold. Nobody had any sort of hope that Sam Darnold was going to come in and be amazing for the Vikings. He was supposed to just be this placeholder until J.J. McCarthy could come in and be the starter for him. But my goodness, Sam Darnold is looking so good these first 3 weeks. It's mind-blowing. I can't believe it. I mean, heck, his odds have even spiked in the betting world of of being a top MVP candidate. Now he's getting up into the talks of being a possible league MVP. That just goes to show how good his play has been through these first 3 weeks. It's really astounding, and it's awesome to go from the guy that was seeing ghosts all these years to now leading the Vikings to a 3-0 start. It's pretty awesome to see if it can keep on going. Now there have been some analysts that have brought this up, and I think this is important to mention that we have seen stuff like this happen in the past. If you guys do remember, Josh Dobbs last year started out really, really good for the Arizona Cardinals. Nobody could believe how well he was playing, and then started to go down as more teams got film on the quarterback and started to see his tendencies a lot more. Josh Dobbs' play kind of fell off midway through the season, and we didn't see too much of him towards the end of the season. But I think that is important to keep in mind, that as Sam Darnold has a new play caller, a new offense that he's running, as defenses start to get the hang of how Sam Darnold's going to run certain plays, what sort of tendencies he's going to have with these Minnesota Vikings, it might not keep up the whole season. I don't have full faith that Sam Darnold's going to keep this up all year, but hats off to him for being able to do this the first 3 games. Really, really impressive to come out and destroy this Houston Texans team that's supposed to have a lot of promise. They're supposed to be winning their division. C.J. Stroud is this big upcoming quarterback that's supposed to be taking over the league, and mind you, he is doing really well, but this game he really struggled. He did not find his footing. That's another thing that I really want to mention about the Minnesota Vikings is that their defense, man, I just can't believe how well their defense is being run. Big credit to Brian Flores, who's come in, really taken over that defense. Brian Flores has went through a lot of adversity here in the NFL so far, losing his head coaching job in Miami over disagreements over the starting quarterback, who they should have as their starting quarterback. He didn't have a great relationship with Tua Tagovailoa. Sorry, I can't pronounce his last name. But you get it, that his relationship with Tua wasn't ideal, and the franchise is going to, stick with their quarterback, the person that they're going to be paying all that money to, and ended up firing Brian Flores. And Brian Flores also has a lawsuit right now with the NFL talking about being racially discriminated against. That's a whole, big bag of craziness that it's over my head. I don't want to get too much into the lawsuit ordeal going on with the NFL, but speaking of that, it goes to show that there's a lot on Brian Flores' plate lately, and he's still able to put together this crazy, amazing defense that gets offensive coordinators and quarterbacks head spinning, and can't figure out what to do on the offensive side of the ball when going against Brian Flores. So, big hats off to him for being able to still put together these crazy defenses, even with all the adversity he's been facing off the field. Really happy that he's been able to still come back even after getting fired from Miami. He went helped coach with the Steelers for a little bit, and now he's the defensive coordinator again for the Vikings. And if he keeps this up, I don't see how he couldn't get another getting another head coaching gig sometime down the line. So good for him. Really proud of him. Really hope that things work out for him, that he's able to get another head coaching job. But yeah, I think that was definitely really important to point out here. Seeing as how he's able to make some of these good quarterbacks struggle. Out of the 3 wins for the Minnesota Vikings, 2 of them again been against teams that are supposed to be contenders, like the San Francisco 49ers and the Houston Texans, and made both quarterbacks in those games look pedestrian, basically. You look at Brock Purdy, he struggled greatly against Minnesota last week when they played him, and then looking at C.J. Stroud's stats here, he had 20 for 31, 215 passing yards, and a touchdown and 2 interceptions. So just goes to show that Minnesota's defense is, really legit, I think, this year, and it's going to have, not just these couple teams, having their heads spinning, but a lot of teams going forward. These quarterbacks are going to struggle a lot taking on Brian Flores' defense and trying to figure out, where's the best place to go with the ball. Yeah, really excited to see Minnesota's defense going forward as well, seeing how that's going to continue playing out, and we'll see if Houston's able to bounce back after that loss. That was quite the loss, quite the blowout. So hopefully this doesn't hurt the team too much and morale-wise, and they're able to bounce back and put this week behind them. And C.J. Stroud will go on and continue to develop and be the young stud that he's supposed to be. But yeah, there's a lot of football left. It's only been 3 weeks, so really proud of how the Vikings played. And even though this was a disappointment for the Houston Texans, it's still really early. Got a lot of football to go before we get to the postseason, obviously. So work out those kinks early on here, and we'll see where these teams are when we're back, probably towards week 17. But yeah, pretty good matchup for them. Like I said, really surprised at how the Vikings pulled out and just destroyed the Texans. And we'll see how these two teams continue to play on going forward. But yeah, with that, let's get to our third matchup. I was a little surprised about as well. The 0-2 Baltimore Ravens went into Jerry World, went into Dallas, Texas, and took on the Cowboys. And wouldn't you know, the Ravens actually came out with the win here. They win 28-25 against the Cowboys. And really, this this wasn't really a game until later into the second half. Really, the Baltimore Ravens were up at one point. Excuse me, sorry about that. What was their score? They were up by 14, yeah, that's what it was. It was 28-6. Wanted to make sure it wasn't 23-6. Yeah, it was 28-6. They were up at one point in this game. Absolutely wild that they let the Cowboys climb all the way back, and ended up being a game towards the end there. But really, the Ravens controlled the ball most all the way up until basically the fourth quarter, where Dallas got a chance to come back. It's surprising how bad the Cowboys' run defense is. Would not expect it. I was complaining last week about how the Eagles' run defense hasn't been the greatest, but when looking at Dallas Cowboys, they're even worse than the Eagles, surprisingly. Letting Alvin Kamara last week run all over them, and then this week they let Derrick Henry basically run all over them for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's absolutely mind-blowing in my mind to see that Dallas's defense has fallen this hard, because they've been formidable defense for years to come. I mean, it's what got Dan Quinn a head coaching job. Without this defense, it would have never led to a head coaching job for Dan Quinn. So blows my mind that the Cowboys defense is falling off so hard, especially when they still got a lot of similar pieces there with Micah Parsons and Diggs as their cornerback. They still got some elite talent there on defense, but it's just not meshing well together, it seems. Somehow these teams that they keep facing, other than the Browns, who they faced week 1 and destroyed, they've struggled these last 2 weeks against the Saints and the Ravens. So, I would be a little worried if I'm a Cowboys fan. That defense does not look good, especially against the run. I mean, that just goes to show that teams can control the clock, control the ball against you the whole game. If they're able to run all over you like that, Cowboys need to tighten up, figure out what to do there on defense to stop these teams from crushing them, basically. Now, Cowboys did, I got to give them credit. They did stay in the game. They didn't just give up when they were down 28-6. They did, end up coming back, making it a game, losing 28-25, only losing by 3 points. So it goes to show that the Cowboys had some grit. They made it a game late. They actually had a chance, I felt like, but I mean, it was a slim chance, but they built a lot of momentum there in the fourth quarter and had a chance late in the game to take it away from the Ravens. And that's one of the big keys for the Ravens too, is like when they end up getting up big, there's a lot of times where they let go and let the other team come back against them. It makes no sense. They dominate the whole game, and then I guess the players feel like they have it in the bag, and they just start letting up. And as soon as they take the foot off the gas pedal, that is the biggest mistake that the Ravens can make, because then these teams build any sort of momentum. You got to watch for any sort of momentum being built, because that could be the end for you right there. I mean, if the other team gets just a hint of momentum, and especially when you're playing away and you're playing in the opponent's home field stadium, they get any sort of momentum, the whole crowd's going to feed off that, and that could take away the whole game plan for the away team. So that's a big worry for the Baltimore Ravens. Is even though they were able to build a big lead against the Cowboys, it's disappointing how they weren't able to sustain that big lead and just finish the job and make it a blowout overall. We shouldn't even be talking about the Cowboys as this being any sort of positive for them, but I do think it's important to point out that they were able to come back against the Baltimore Ravens even though they're getting blown out, and made it a game. So I don't think that the Cowboys are, I'd say, dead in the water here yet, as of yet, just because there's always a lot of ups and downs throughout the season. We're only 3 weeks in. They could tighten things up, and Cowboys have, I think, good enough talent on their team that they could figure things out as the season goes on. So I won't, even being an Eagles fan, won't completely count them out yet, but I am very worried. If you're a Cowboys fan, I'd be very worried about that defense. We'll see how they're able to get things set up for this next week, and it'll be interesting to see. And same thing with the Baltimore Ravens. They're 1-2 right now. Not doing too great in their division, excuse me. The Steelers right now leading that division at 3-0. Don't see that being the case all year, especially the offense that the Steelers are playing. But hey, they got great defense, and if the Steelers can stay healthy on defense, they could win that division. So Baltimore's really got to step it up. Even though they won this game, I think they still got a lot of things to figure out where they don't let these teams come back, and if they find a way to dominate on offense, they got to continue dominating on offense, not taking their foot off the gas pedal. So we'll see how both these teams continue to develop as the season goes on. Alrighty. And going from there, getting into my next surprise, I'd say, of week 3 is the Los Angeles Rams taking on the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco 49ers were the away team for this game, so they played at SoFi Stadium, and you wouldn't believe it, even with all the crazy injuries going on with Los Angeles, they were able to pull out this win. The Rams won 27-24 against the San Francisco 49ers. Pretty mind-blowing that the Rams were able to pull out this win, but it was a really, really good game to watch if you're able to watch this. I had the pleasure of being able to watch this game, and it was back and forth, really, between both teams. Actually, there was a point where San Francisco, I believe, was up by 10 points in the fourth quarter. They were up 24-14. It looked like San Francisco was going to win this game, but somehow the Rams would just keep getting this crazy momentum, and was able to get some stops on defense that were really key to put them in a position to win. And hats off to them, especially with all their injuries. Excuse me, the Rams starting 2 wide receivers are both out. They're missing some linemen as well. You wouldn't think that the offense would be able to move the ball at all, but crazy enough they were. Kyron Williams went off this game. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, did well on the ground. They were able to get a running game going, and I think that really helped the Rams, open things up on the outsides. I mean, Tutu Atwell had almost 100 yards receiving. He's like 4th or 5th on their depth chart now, even though he used to be a big piece for him in the past. He did great this game, especially being lower on the depth chart. It just goes to show next man up mentality. Rams really have it on that team. They have a lot of the guys in the next man up mentality. They looked really, really good, and it just goes to show that Sean McVay is a great coach. He doesn't need rock stars out there to put out a winning performance. And that's really awesome to see. It's awesome to see that the Rams still got it, that even with these injuries, that they can go out there and put on a show and show the world that they're going to be competitive no matter what they got out there. And that's awesome to see. And curious to see if the Rams are able to keep this up, because with all these injuries, you would think that it would slow them down, but it seems to just be motivating them to want to do even better. So kudos to them, hats off to them. Really awesome to see going forward, and hopefully they get hopefully they get some of their offensive pieces back. They get supposed to get Puka Nacua back eventually, and Cooper Kupp even sooner, so they get those guys back in there. Who knows what this offense could look like going forward. And for the 49ers, I just think that they kind of lost on the momentum side. They also had a lot of pieces missing. I can't write that off as well. They were missing George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk still isn't fully integrated after his issues of the offseason. So it just goes to show that the 49ers still got some kinks to work out. And, of course, they're missing Christian McCaffrey, their best player. So, even with all those key pieces missing, the 49ers are still able to, move the ball well on offense. I think, Brock Purdy is a pretty good quarterback. He's been proving himself, even with his weapons gone. Everyone used to just say that, they have all these great weapons. That's the reason why they're so good. Well, now they're all hurt. I mean, Brock Purdy almost carried them to victory that game, with all their pieces hurt. So it goes to show that Brock Purdy is, a little bit better than what, the general public gives him credit for. So, yeah. That's how I thought about that matchup. I think the 49ers will be just fine. I think it was kind of a fluke loss for them. They kind of should have won that game. So once they get more pieces back, like George Kittle and Deebo and them, I think they'll be just fine going forward. So yeah, curious to see how the Rams continue on. If they're able to continue on these getting these wins with so many injuries to their team, and curious to see how well the 49ers are able to bounce back after that loss. So we'll see going forward. Alrighty, and with that, let's cover the last match I want to get into for Week 3. Of course, we got to tackle the old Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles took on the New Orleans Saints. We took them on in New Orleans, and I was really surprised at how well the Eagles played on defense this game. It was mind blowing. If you guys watched the game, It was tough to watch. I'm not gonna lie. The first 3 quarters were, especially if you're an Eagles fan, you're just tearing your hair out, because at one point we had almost 300 yards of offense and 0 points. Like, we would drive down the field and then we'd make a boneheaded turnover, and you just want to sit there and do the face palm just 100 times over, because we should have scored. Every single possession, you feel like the Eagles should have scored in that game, and it just is mind-blowing the way that Nick Sirianni and the rest of the Eagles coaching staff would go about this game. It just, you would think that there would have been some better play calling. It just, I couldn't believe it, honestly. One of the big play calls later in the game that really messes with you is right before halftime. The Eagles could have kicked a field goal to make it 3-3 going into the half, and we got the ball back to start the second half. And for whatever reason, it's 4th and short. We decide to run a fake tush push, and mind you, there's less than 30 seconds left in the quarter. And, we're just on the edge of the red zone. We get this first down, we still got a ways to go to get into the end zone, and we don't have many timeouts. It made 0 sense. We should have just took the points on that 4th and short and gone from there. We would have went into the half, tied 3-3, but instead we do this crazy play to try to trick the defense and do a fake tush push and do an end around with Saquon, and Saquon gets stuffed before he gets the first down. And what do you know? We go into the half with 0 points. Makes the fan base it's such a deflating play, where it should have gave us some momentum going into the half and then coming back out. I was so upset with that series of events. I thought right then and there, we're probably going to lose this game just because of the way that, we're making some boneheaded decisions with some of these play calls. But alas, second half came, and the Eagles showed that they were the better team. I mean, even throughout the second half, even with some other boneheaded mistakes, the Eagles really came alive there in the fourth quarter. When Saquon busted that 60-plus yard rushing touchdown, that's when the Eagles really came alive and, stopped making boneheaded, silly mistakes on offense and, showed that, they have the potential to not only win this game, or basically showed the potential that they have the ability to win this game. And not only win this game, but, build some motivation for the future for the Eagles. Show that, they are a team that will compete. And if they can really hammer out some of these issues, some of these silly mistakes, I agree. I think that, they're much more than just a team to play around with, or, they're not just a team that's going to get you a few wins this year. They actually will be a contender. And I was worried that they wouldn't be a contender, especially with the way their defense has been playing these first 2 weeks. I was extremely worried after last week, the way that Atlanta was able to just drive down the field on us after we take a lead. Like that was so discouraging to see, and had me very, very worried as a fan to see that the defense isn't up to par. But after this week against the Saints, it goes to show Jalen Carter is a monster. The guy is just amazing up front. The dude basically controlled the defense for us. He really stopped the Saints, didn't let them do anything they wanted to do at all. Anytime they snapped the ball, it felt like Jalen Carter was already in the backfield. So really awesome to see him play so well. I know that as long as he's healthy, that the Eagles will have a chance on defense to make some noise, and that makes me really happy to see going forward. So coming down to it, we did win in like the final seconds. It was a similar situation to Atlanta last week, but this time, instead of giving it to the Saints and giving them a chance to score, we stopped them. They weren't able to get in the field goal range and tie the game before the game ended. Our defense actually went out and stopped them, and that was what I really wanted to see. I really wanted to see that improvement from last week. So hats off to the Eagles for being able to get that done. Even with all the silly mistakes early on, the Eagles were still able to come out and get a victory. And just like I've been saying, this is only week 3. It makes sense that there's some boneheaded decisions going on early on. Shouldn't be seeing this stuff, week 9, week 10. So hopefully this doesn't continue down this path. But, if the Eagles can clean up some of these mistakes, especially when it comes to the penalties as well, I'm getting tired of seeing some of these silly penalties being called on the Eagles. If we can clean up the penalties and we can clean up the turnovers and some of this silly play calling, I think all of it is things that can be fixed as well. There's nothing that I've been seeing on the film that makes me worry so much that it's not fixable. I think everything is fixable here, and if the Eagles can really get things going, they're going to be a menace here in the NFC. I got a feeling that they are my Super Bowl pick already. After last week, I was a little worried about that pick, but this week goes to show me that I have nothing to worry about with that pick. I think that as long as the Eagles continue to work on these issues, they're going to be just fine going forward. So yeah, that's what I thought of the Week 3 matchups. Let me know what you guys think. I know I didn't get to every single matchup. There's a lot of key matchups to go over, and it takes me a while to cover them all, as you can see. But yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and get into our Week 4 preview, look into the upcoming matchups for this week, and we'll start with the first matchup for tonight's game. Thursday night, we got the New York Giants at home taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, as I was talking about earlier with Dallas, their run defense is abysmal, but New York Giants haven't been that great this year. They've been looking like a team that, it seems like a team can kind of, do whatever they want against them, but that's not always the case. When Daniel Jones is playing really good football, I think the Giants, can win games. I mean, Daniel Jones has proven that he's an NFL quarterback. He was a first-round pick. The dude's got the talent when he's playing competently and he's not making boneheaded decisions out there on the field and is, keeping the ball secure and not turning it over. Giants end up having chances to win these games. So I think it falls on the shoulders of Daniel Jones. How well is he going to play this game? Like I said, the Cowboys' defense has been atrocious, so I think it leaves the door open for Daniel Jones to have a decent game here, and this could end up being close, a lot closer than what a lot of people would anticipate. I'm going to assume that when I come to my score predictions here, I'm going to assume that the Cowboys are going to get their win here. It's going to be close, though, because it's a division matchup. I think it's going to be somewhat higher scoring, like somewhere like 26-16. I don't know if that's higher scoring, but more points than what I would have expected for Dallas. But I think that New York's going to have trouble stopping Dallas because, I mean, New York just hasn't played well. I don't think so. I don't think their defense has the firepower to stop Dak and CD. We'll see if they're able to, though. It's going to be an interesting matchup tonight. This is a division matchup that I am interested to see just how well the Giants are going to play against some of these in-division matchups. They've looked pretty decent. And Malik Neighbors, of course, has looked phenomenal for the Giants so far. He's been like everything for them on offense. If Dallas isn't able to take away Malik Neighbors early, Giants are going to be in this game. They're going to end up, competing pretty well against the Cowboys. So, but like I said, I don't think that's going to end up being the case. I think Dallas is going to figure some things out. The Giants just don't have the pieces. They're not, firepower in the run game. Devin Singletary isn't going to run all over you like Alvin Kamara did, and Derrick Henry did. Devin Singletary is not the same running back as those two guys, in my opinion. So, we'll see how it works out. Like I said, I think it's going to be Dallas 26 and the Giants 16. So Dallas wins 26-16. And going from there, the second matchup that I want to cover, I think this one's going to be really, really good. We got the Minnesota Vikings coming into Lambeau, coming into Green Bay and taking on the Green Bay Packers. Very, very interesting matchup for sure because both teams have been playing a lot better than a lot of the public expected. Especially when the Packers lost Jordan Love. Nobody would have expected Malik Willis to come in and do as well as he's doing. Malik Willis has won every matchup he's faced so far. I mean, it's insane that Packers are 2-1. They're doing better right now with Malik Willis than they were with Jordan Love. It's crazy to see. Crazy to see just how well Malik Willis was able to come in because he was just picked up. He was just traded right at the end of this offseason to the Packers, so they had some quarterback depth, but he had been with the Titans for so long. He hadn't had a lot of chance or a lot of time to be with Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers and, learning their system well enough to, I think, be really have a good understanding of their playbook and being able to run any play, that Matt LaFleur calls for him. I don't think Malik was, that much entrenched in their playbook by the time he had to come in and start for them. But it just goes to show how well Matt LaFleur has been able to customize his playbook to fit Malik Willis's, abilities, make it so that Malik Willis can use his legs a lot more because Jordan Love isn't known as like being a big running quarterback where Malik Willis is, and Malik Willis has made a lot of crazy positive plays with his legs, and it's thanks to Matt LaFleur making those play designs and making some plays more in favor of Malik Willis's play style. And that goes to show how good of a coach he really is, how he's able to put his players in the best position to succeed. And really curious to see how this game goes. Is Malik Willis going to be the starter? Is Jordan Love going to be back this week? Still up in the air. We don't know for sure. Going to be interested to see who ends up starting for them and how Matt LaFleur uses them, especially against this Vikings defense. Like we've been saying, Brian Flores has brought this new energy to the Vikings defense that, it's made some head spin for a lot of offensive coordinators and quarterbacks. So are the Green Bay Packers going to be able to overcome that? We'll see. It's yet to be determined. I think the Vikings are going to come in here and actually stomp the Green Bay Packers. There's a lot of people thinking Green Bay is going to come out on top. I don't think that's going to be the case. Vikings have been proven they're a formidable team. They're a contender this year. I really do believe that, and I think that's going to continue on. As long as Sam Darnold doesn't make any boneheaded decisions, and he hasn't this year. He's been playing great, so I don't think that's going to just magically start happening. I think the final score of this game is probably going to be somewhere of like 24-20 for the Vikings. That's my final prediction for that. I think the Vikings will come out, be stout on defense, probably cause a couple key turnovers that will make it hard for the Packers to get back into this game. And I just think that the Vikings defense is that legit. I think that Brian Flores will have them flying over on the field, and it's going to be hard for either Jordan Love or Malik Willis to get any sort of footing and get things figured out. But yeah, that's my prediction for this game. We'll see how it turns out. Like I said, I have the Minnesota Vikings winning 24-20. Alrighty. And going from there, the next very, very interesting matchup that we got is the Cincinnati Bengals coming into coming into Carolina and taking on the Panthers. It's very, very crazy to even think that the Panthers even have any sort of shot against the Bengals, but they do. The Bengals are 0-3 right now, and Panthers coming off that crazy win against the Raiders goes to show that the Panthers, they have a shot here. Andy Reid, excuse me, Andy Dalton has shown that he can be a serviceable quarterback. This last game, throwing for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think that pretty much shows that he can be a serviceable quarterback. He was the first quarterback to do that this year, to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So it's going to be very, very interesting, especially the history behind this game. As we know, the Cincinnati Bengals was where Andy Dalton played most of his career before he was released. So this is kind of a revenge game for Andy Dalton. Will Andy Dalton be able to put the nail in the coffin for the Bengals in their season? Because if the Bengals start out 0-4, there's not a lot of hope for them to come back and be a contender. The probability is so low. You would never expect an 0-4 team to just, rise from the dead and go on like a 10-game win streak or whatever they would need to even, push for a playoff spot. It's going to be really tough if the Bengals end up losing this game and consider themselves legitimate at all this year to fight for a contending spot. It's going to end up being a good matchup, even though both teams are not ideal for being an 0-3 versus a 1-2 type team. You wouldn't think that would be a cool matchup to see, but there's a lot weighing on this matchup. A lot of pride for Andy Dalton to come in and show the Bengals, they should have never let him go. And then, the Bengals are like, we really need this win if we want to compete at all. So, really curious to see how this game goes out. I personally think the Bengals are going to win just because of how much the whole organization needs it. It's not just Andy Dalton who needs this win. It's Bengals really, really need it here. So I see Bengals probably winning. It's going to be end up close. I think it'll come down to the wire. I think it'll be something like neither one of them have great defenses, I don't think. So I think it'll be a higher scoring type game. It's going to be somewhere in like the 30s, like 31-28 Bengals is what I'm going to say. We'll see if that plays out, because I think that games are going to be these high-scoring affairs, and they end up being like super low-scoring. I thought the Eagles and Saints was going to be super high-scoring last week. It was 15-12, super low-scoring. So we'll see. We'll see how well my prediction holds up here, but I do think that the Bengals will get the win here. And we'll see if the score plays out 31-28, but I think, like I said, I think Bengals will get that W. Alrighty, in the next matchup, I think it's important to cover here is the Philadelphia Eagles going into Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. And this is very interesting to me because Buccaneers started out pretty strong the first 2 weeks. Baker looked to be, this another type of MVP caliber season for him. And where the Eagles, of course, have struggled a lot here. Starting out these first 3 weeks, of course, on offense, there's just been unnecessary turnovers, so it makes you think, how are these two teams going to go against each other? Last week, Baker did not have nearly as good of a game against the Denver Broncos. Nobody would have expected it because Denver has been struggling themselves, and then they ended up coming out and really dismantling the Buccaneers here. Goes to show that Denver does have a really good defense that they don't get a lot of credit for where they should, but going from there, I think that, this game's going to end up being close. Both teams are actually really good. Both are dealing with a lot of injuries, though, and I think that's very key to point out. Like the Buccaneers are missing Vita Vea, centerpiece of their defensive line, where the Eagles are missing some key offensive linemen, with Malik Becton having injuries, Landon Dickerson being injured, and Lane Johnson, I believe, sustained an injury against the Saints. I'm not too sure if he's going to be held out for this upcoming game or not. Time will tell, but lot of key injuries on the line that could be very, very impactful for the game going forward. It just depends on who's going to end up, suiting up this week and who's going to be healthy enough to, push through the whole game. I personally think the Eagles should win this game as long as they can clean up a lot of their mistakes. If they come out here and, make some boneheaded turnovers early on, I don't think we're going to get the grace that we did against the Saints with the Bucs here. I think that the Bucs are a much better put together team compared to the Saints. So, if we come out and we don't turn the ball over, the Philadelphia Eagles will, I think will end up winning this game at least by a touchdown. But if they come out and make some silly mistakes early on, it's going to end up being a lot closer, and we'll probably end up losing. So as long as we play a clean game, I'm going to say the Philadelphia Eagles will win this game. Oh, let's make it, I want to say 24 to, we'll say 17. We'll make it a touchdown game. I think that's how it's going to come out. If things, assuming the Eagles make maybe like one mistake or so, I don't think, or make like not one mistake, they'll probably make many mistakes, but make like one turnover that would be bad per se. If we can stay under one turnover, I think we win that game. Or we can stay to one turnover or no turnovers, I think we win that game. We have more than one turnover, probably going to lose. Going to be interesting to watch that game, see how it all unfolds, see how much the Eagles are able to clean up their game planning and their game management, and we'll see how it plays out. Curious to see who ends up suiting up for this game as well. Who's too injured to play, and how long they'll be out and when they'll be back. Mind you, as well, the Eagles will probably be without A.J. Brown again, along with Devontae Smith. Who knows for sure? If the Eagles are down their two starting wide receivers, that'll be a major impact as well. Like I said, I still think the Eagles have better talent. Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley can lead the offense. I'm not too worried about that. And the Eagles linemen that were able to step in for Becton and Lane Johnson just goes to show that Stoutland, our offensive line coach, he's really, really good at plugging in players where they need to be plugged in and still making our offensive line formidable against defenses no matter who's in there. So personally, I think even with the injuries, the Eagles still have an edge against the Buccaneers here. So final prediction, Philadelphia Eagles winning against the Buccaneers 24-17. Alrighty, and with that, we'll get into our final matchup for that I want to cover, of course, for next week, or for this coming week. Sorry, I believe this one is the Monday night game. The Seattle Seahawks take on the the Lions. The Seattle Seahawks take on the Detroit Lions. I don't know why I couldn't think of Detroit. Seattle is taking on Detroit in Detroit, so will be played in a dome, not going to be played up in Seattle in the open air, so I think that's going to be key, especially for Jared Goff. Jared Goff has not had a great start to this season, had a lot of turnovers. He's already has more interceptions than touchdowns. He has 4 interceptions to 3 touchdowns so far, so it just goes to show that Jared Goff needs to improve his game here if the Lions want to remain contenders this year. I'm a little worried, of course, about Seattle as well on offense. They've had some, interesting, I'd say, things happening on offense where there were some safeties against Geno Smith and his team a few games ago that kind of blew my mind that that Geno Smith would allow these types of safeties to happen against him. Even though Geno Smith has been playing a lot better these past few years, he still has his moments where, he's not, the greatest quarterback in the NFL. He makes his mistakes, and it makes you wonder, is he, fit to continue starting for Seattle going forward? He has his moments. He has very much up and down moments that, leaves the fans puzzled, not knowing for sure, what's best for Seattle going forward. I still think Geno is, a pretty good, serviceable quarterback. If everything's working around him, I think he's fine to go. You got DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Tyler Lockett as weapons for you. The coaching staff needs to find more ways to get these guys open for Geno and, make it easier on Geno to make these decisions so he's not getting sacked immediately. Now, like I said, with those safeties that come, you're going against the Detroit Lions, who have an amazing pass rusher in Aiden Hutchinson, He had like 5 sacks against Tampa Bay when he played against them. Almost broke the franchise record for most sacks for a team or for a player in one game. So Seattle needs to definitely be focused on how to stop Aiden Hutchinson and from getting to Geno Smith, so we don't have any crazy safeties going on in this game. But yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see. I think both teams are really, really good. This is going to be more of a defining moment for the Lions. Are the Lions going to be a legit contender? They need to show that they can do more than just run the ball. They're a dominant running team, but with Jared Goff making some terrible decisions, I think, as a passer, he needs to really, improve his play style here after he just got paid as well. Him getting a contract extension shows that the team has faith in him. He needs to show that the team made a good decision in extending him. He needs to start playing a lot better ball going forward here. And I get it, we're only 3 weeks in, so if some mistakes happen, let it be, whether it be some of the players not up to speed with how some sort of routes is supposed to turn out or whatnot. But if you want to narrow it down to just some miscommunication throughout these first 3 weeks, so be it. But that stuff needs to be hammered out here by now. Like, we're getting into week 4. We need to start playing a lot more sound football, no more silly mental errors, and we'll see if the Lions can keep up with that, if they can get rid of those mental errors and become known as an actual contender in the NFC. So we'll see how the Lions face off. I think this will be that defining game for the Lions, especially since they're playing at home. I think playing in Detroit's going to be a big boost for them, and I think they'll end up getting the win. But it'll end up being tight. I think both defenses are really, really good. It'll be one of those types of games. I think the Lions will probably end up winning something like 24-21. That's going to be my final score prediction there. Lions will win 24 to Seattle's 21 points. I think that it's going to be tough to really, really drive down the field on these teams. I think Seattle will end up having like some big plays with DK Metcalf that will get them their couple touchdowns. And, Aiden's probably going to have probably 2 sacks in this game, I'd say. I think Aiden Hutchinson's having a heck of a year. Dude's a beast. Really awesome watching him play on defense. So if you do end up catching this game, highly recommend watching Detroit's defense and Aiden Hutchinson online. Dude looks amazing. I'm really excited for this matchup. Like I said, I think Detroit can come out and prove that they are a contender. But if they end up losing to Seattle, I think that kind of proves that Seattle's more of a contender. That Geno can play more consistently and be able to get the ball out quick and not hold on to the ball too long. I think that Seahawks are right up there too for contending in the NFC. Their defense definitely looks really, really good. It's just, can the offense kind of keep up with their defense? So, we'll see this game. It's going to be real interesting to watch, and I'm excited to get into this week, get into week 4's matchups, and I'll be breaking them all down with you again next week. Once we get all the results, I'll be back next Thursday to cover it all. And yeah, guys, I think that's everything we got for this week. That's everything I got. Remember, guys, if you haven't already, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, of course, to the channel. We'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. And yeah, that's everything I got. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. This is Honest Football Talk with Thomas Malone, and I'm signing out, guys. You guys take care. Peace out.